So let's talk about, first of all, your new book, which was published, I believe, in June, and it's called Something's Not Right Here. So what is not right here, Mario? Can you explain?
You bet. Something's not right here, folks. Ooh, that's what is those words? Why would a human being utter those words? It with a
Many
little
things
bit
are
of
not right in the world today.
right. It's just so right, and so this was exactly the question: is what happened? So it was the evening of February 4th, and as we all know, unfortunately, in January we had the brewing up of this very unfortunate coronavirus pandemic. And I'm following along for many years, like both of you, as China watchers. I live here. My life is Chinese. My family is from, we were just saying before the show, my wife is here from Shenyang in the Northeast. So, I mean, I'm very familiar with China, been here for a long time, and I'm watching China. I'm watching what's happening, and I'm seeing this virus pandemic situation. And I'm noticing an enormous amount of China attacking China and blaming China. And it's regarding a virus, not regarding trade law, not regarding WTO, not regarding business. I'm saying to myself, what's going on? This is a virus. It was getting serious in Wuhan. I'm like, people are dying. This is a humanitarian crisis. And there's still this politicization and demonization of China. This should not be happening. What's going on? And immediately it popped into my head. In 2009, when the H1N1 virus broke out across the world, this was also very, very serious. Did this same kind of demonization happen with America? Was everybody attacking Americans? No. I said, this is not right. Something's not right here, folks. And I looked at my wife. This was the evening of February 4th. This had been brewing in my head for many, many days. And I sat down at the computer and I wrote this article that evening. 1 o'clock in the morning, I finished the article. I hit the send button and I went to bed. Now, look, I'm an author and I write well. People respect me, but I'm not famous. I write an article and I get maybe 1,000 views, 3,000 views. I mean, I don't expect much, right? I always think the articles are fabulous, right? Everyone should think their own articles are fabulous. Otherwise, why are you writing them? But still, I wake up in the morning and I think, well, I just went to bed. I wrote another article, right? Oh, maybe people will read it. And I wake up in the morning and then the rest of the story. I'll tell you. I'll stop right there.
What happened? Tell us the rest of the story, please.
I write a note at 9 o'clock in the morning to all the readers in LinkedIn. Wow, my article reached 10,000 views. Thank you so much. It's my very first article ever that reached 10,000 views in LinkedIn. So that's quite we say a milestone. And it is pretty good for LinkedIn, by the way, right? And I thought, wow, and I wrote 10, and I pick up the phone and I call my mother. I said, Mom. She goes, yeah, hon, what's going on? I go, my first article on LinkedIn got 10,000 views. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. Good for you. Love you. Bye. Right? Like this. This is my morning. By 1:30 in the afternoon, it was 40,000. I'm on the phone with my friends and I'm going, something's going on. This has never happened before. I don't know what's going on, but I guess
it could have been hacked, right? I mean, that could have been a question as well.
Right? So who knows, right? So I'm looking at this thing, and then by 3, 4 in the afternoon, it's to like 150,000 views, and I'm checking with some other people, and I said, "Is that a lot of what's going on? Is that a lot of views on LinkedIn?" And they're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know. I had no idea what's going." So now people on LinkedIn, they think I'm a marketing genius and all of this stuff too, and I'm like, okay, I'll let them think that.
And that you have a whole team behind you, but you're really an independent businessman and running your own show, basically. And as of today, how many views did it get? I think some 2 million or more.
Martina, by that evening, it was to hitting 500,000. I went to bed. I called my friends in Beijing Shirley, you might know Harvey Zodin.
Yes,
He's the
absolutely.
former VD of ABC
Yes.
in Beijing. I said, Harvey, he said, what's going on? I said, my article's got 500,000 views. And I said, but even more is the number of views per minute, not per hour, per minute is accelerating. He's like, oh, wow. He says, so he tells the senior chief print editor at China Daily, and also we contact CGTN to tell them. The next morning, I'm on the show, CGTN Live, the next morning, and 10 minutes before I'm on the show, China 24, at 10 minutes to 12 noon, I'm waiting in the studio on hold to go on air, and I'm watching the clicks on the views of the article. 998,000, 998,500, 998,900, and the article hit 1 million views 5 minutes before I went on air at noon the next day.
That was perfect timing. So obviously a lot of viewers must have thought it was, algorithms and perfect timing.
What were some of the comments that were left in the article? What were the sentiments that you felt?
Shirley, thanks for asking, because that part, I actually decided to make a section of the book. So what happened was, several people said to me within a few weeks, and you know what happened after February, right? February or March, this was an incredibly unique period of time for all of us. We were all locked down. I was in my home here with my boy for 6 weeks. We didn't go out for 6 weeks. I mean, it was a crazy time. It was happening in China, and then it started happening all over the rest of the world, right? Then next was Italy, and then Iran, we know that, and then New York. So we know. So while this was happening, in that first 10 days, the article kept going. The momentum of that article continued for 10 days. I was in what you call the media cycle. I was in the media. I mean, from morning till night, I was either writing.
The news anchor.
I really was. And so I was in that cycle. And surely a big part of it was, a big part of what was feeding and informing me, right? So in other words, I wrote this opinion, and there it was, and somehow it struck a nerve, it hit the soul of the earth somewhere. But then that opinion was just my single opinion. Okay, look, we're not that important. We're just individual people. Well, we hit on something special, right? That's a special moment in time. It's a special moment in life. And then I started getting the very, very intelligent, amazing opinions over 3,000 other people who wrote comments. And so those comments from many professional people like yourselves, and some were executives, some about 60% were, I think, Asian, Chinese, the rest were European, American. Hundreds per hour of comments coming in on what I wrote. First thing to tell you is 90% of them were positive. Thank you for writing it, right? Thank you for saying the truth. Thank you for saying the real true story about what's going on. And so I appreciated that, but there was a lot of diversity of their opinions as well. A lot of other points that people brought up about the situation. It was a fascinating roller coaster ride for 10 days.
So what triggered you afterwards to write the book? Was it these interactions and comments with some of your audiences?
Well, the reason that I found myself realizing I need to write the book was that, and quickly, was frankly the team of close friends, and I formed an advisory team right away, because my position I became into a completely new elevated position in my career because of this. And that's a wonderful thing. I'm very blessed because of this. And I surrounded myself with advisors. I surrounded myself with people whose opinions I valued. And I said, look, I need some, we say sanity check or, reality check. Here's what I think. Shirley and Martina, you are both very intelligent and experienced people. Here's what I think. Does that sound right to you, or does that sound a little crazy? I mean, you do a reality check, and everybody said to me, this was such a unique period of time in the world, in the history books. And you as a foreigner, for whatever reason, you became the single foreigner that got associated with that. And in my Chinese name, which is Ma Yijun, because in the Chinese media, they translated it and put it in all Chinese media. I was at the top of every Chinese media, all the online portals, Sohu, QQ, Toutiao,
It's
Sina,
what we call a Sohong, right? To go viral in Chinese.
So because that happened, all of these advisors, half of them local Chinese business people that I know, they said to me, in the next 2, 3, 4 months at the most, you really should get a book out. And it's one, to tell the story, because it's a good story, it's an entertaining story, it's a fun story. But two, they said, you know what? It's an important story because by March, we all believe China's going to get through this virus. We're going to get it under control. And sure enough, we did, didn't we? Right? So your book will commemorate what China did here in a good way, in a positive way. And so for these two reasons, we were feeling very, very strongly, keep the book the same as the title of the article. And then I've added a lot of additional content, needless to say. I chose, Shirley, going back to what you asked earlier, I made section 2 of the book, Mario's selection of favorite comments. So from all the comments that I received, some of them were so profound and so wonderful. And then I selected a few dozen of those and put them as a section in the book, things like that. So we want to commemorate this time, don't we? It's an terribly sad time in a lot of ways, and it hasn't finished yet. But we also want to commemorate it for a lot of good reasons, especially with respect to China.
And speaking of which, I've noticed that ever since the article was posted and you have received many, public engagement roles, particularly with China's corporates going global. And one of it, I should mention that I've seen a video that you did on Take for Life, specifically in partnership with some of the telecom players in China. And so what's your views on Huawei and its current solutions in tackling this, I should say, elevated sanctions that were initiated by the US in May?
My views on Huawei didn't begin until Huawei contacted me. And I really appreciated it because Huawei said, we have a global leadership KOL platform. Okay. Congratulations, Mario. Your article hit the spot, and so now you're a voice. We like your voice, and we would like you to be a part of it. And right away, who would not say the alarm bells are going off in my head? I was like, Huawei. Well, if you're ever going to pick which company to associate with, if you want to be controversial, that's the one you'd pick, right? And I'm like, okay. So they said to me, do your research, do your investigating. And that's what I do, right? The reason people appreciating my voice is because they say, Mario, we don't have to agree with everything you're necessarily saying, but we can see you're making a very, very strong effort in your writing to stick to that integrity of reasonable and common sense and true facts. So as long as those are the root of what you're thinking and what you're writing, you're safe. So do the research. I did my own research. Now look, we see what's happening. You've got United States doing this anti-China propaganda. Let's call it what it is, because that's what it is, right? It's this and we see it escalating now because of the pandemic. I went back, and it caused me to go back and realize it's exactly what they were doing with Huawei. The accusations I confirmed by the facts. The German board and advisory did the full investigation, found nothing. The American Congress and advisory board and research that they did on Huawei, and what did they find? And they found nothing. And Huawei offered to sign a no backdoor pact, and actually no one else would sign the no backdoor pact, right? And so I learned that, sure enough, they just politicized these things that have to do with Huawei. It was almost to say Huawei is a proxy for China.
This scapegoating obviously got bigger and bigger with coronavirus, but it's also one of the key attributes of a thought leader and key opinion leader, to be controversial, right? Because when you have solid and good arguments afterwards, then this is what builds and makes you know, someone like you, like a KOL, and who is also picked by the likes of Huawei to be, you know, a part of this leadership team as well. But going back again to the topic of the book, like basically you have compared the origins of the swine flu in the US, H1N1, to the outbreak of the coronavirus in China, and basically saying that the reaction to Americans were very much different, and the public opinion not as bad, but like the sinophobia now and the hate attacks against the Chinese and Asians in general are just like seeing a record high, right? So what can be done in your opinion? You're American, living in China, married to a Chinese.
I am really I must say that the development of this whole situation has put me internally, I'm in a high conflict situation. I am torn. And I've gotten smart enough and wise enough in the last few months to stop being angry. And so in not being angry anymore about all these things that are happening, I settle down and I realize what's going on. I'm disheartened by what's going on. I'm truly disheartened.
Are you often asked to pick sides?
Well, and everyone is assuming that I even want to pick sides. Yes, of course. And this is part of the problem. And I have no interest. In fact, I'll say it very clearly. I often do during interviews and in my writing. I don't have a particular interest or desire to be anti-China or pro-China. I don't have a particular interest or desire to be anti-American or pro-American.
You can be all of it.
I just want to discuss reality, please, like a mature, clear-thinking adult. Can we have a conversation, right? So this is what I want to do. And I have to say, I'm not gonna talk about this political stuff. I want to mention something real quickly, Martina, because you asked about this H1N1. Look, I have to point this out. And it's the first time I'm pointing this out in a media interview this week, because it's
maybe just recent. Viral too.
The U.S., right, the U.S. just had, as you saw, the U.S. and Europe had the decline of the virus. They were going hand in hand. And then the U.S. just had what? This turn back up. And it is a disaster. Today, 50,000 new cases. And Dr. Fauci came on and said it could go to 100,000 new cases. My mother, finally, God bless my mom, she's in Fenghuangcheng, Phoenix, Arizona. My mother, my brother, my daughter. Now they're really getting, my mother is finally, she's saying, you know what, I'm getting worried about this. And it's understandable, because here we have it's not a second wave. It's that it's the first wave didn't stop yet, and now it's accelerating. Again, we not to talk about the reasons, that's a separate discussion. But I want to say H1N1, because you're asking about H1N1. People don't understand. Do you know how many people in the United States of America in 2009 were infected with H1N1? 60 million. And then that's 18% of the population. And then it went on to infect over 1 billion people worldwide. Okay, and somewhere between 300 to 500,000 deaths. That was with a mild virus. That's my point. Mm-hmm. We understand. We here understand, and most people understand. This is not a mild virus. Say what you want about it. This is a very severe virus. We saw the piles of dead bodies, severe outbreak in Wuhan, in Italy, in Iran, in New York, and then the rest, Spain, UK. Now it's accelerating in America, and now to Brazil is next, right? So we know, we don't need to talk about, the death rate is this or that. We know it's a lot higher than an H1N1. That's the point. You can argue about the details. There's lots of details to argue about. I'm saying forget it. I want to offer a warning to the world right now. Imagine if this virus is if this virus infects 60 million people like H1N1 did just in the United States, the death count is going to be something like 2 million, not 2 or 3 or 4 or 400,000. The death count is going to be very, very high. because the death count and the severity of this virus is obviously more severe. Again, skipping whatever those details might be, but it's obviously more severe. So I am really worried about this. Do you see what I'm saying?
Let me go back to the Huawei question. So post May 12th, with this elevated version by the Department of Commerce on Huawei sanctions, what has Huawei done since May 12th? So give us a count of the countermeasures and how effective they are, please.
Well, what's very interesting about what happened with Huawei is that the United States had come up with these sanctions, and then notice that it's not been reported in the news but it was reported in the Twitter feed, and I retweeted it. I think you did as well. That Congress passed quietly. Oh, well, it seems that we're going to go ahead and allow the American companies to work with Huawei
on the 5G standards.
I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah, basically on everything. So here they were saying,
not on sales. I just wanted to make a clarification. Sales are banned, but the cooperations are allowed in terms of collaborating on building global 5G standards. So how do you, just give us a bland statement on what does that really mean?
What it all really means is that we can see that despite the United States putting pressure on Huawei, that Huawei was able to successfully shift in the marketplace between its own Chinese domestic economy at home, plus it will continue via the Belt and Road initiatives and forays into Europe. Even with some pushback, look at how Huawei has shown it still is going to adjust, and it's still going to be an incredibly successful multinational company, and it's proving itself out.
Yesterday, Congress has passed this sanction in response to the Hong Kong national security law. And Biden came out and said, if I were the president, I would have a tough hand on China. What would Biden do?
I don't believe Joe Biden is going to have a tough hand on China. I think Joe Biden is saying what he needs to say to pander, to try and get himself elected. Because Trump is being so tough on China, and that seems to be popular to some degree, Biden is saying it. I think I do not trust what any of them are saying. They're just pandering. And in the end, no, Joe Biden isn't going to be tough with China. He's going to say, let's be more reasonable and work things out. We don't want to be as divisive as Donald Trump on China, but he won't say that until after he takes his oath and gets elected.
So on that note, November is coming up soon, and US elections. So will you cast your vote from a long distance, or will you abstain in that case, Mario? Who would you pick between the two?
I'm abstaining. I'm abstaining. I want to say a very disheartening statement, and that is, it's just a big failed situation over there. But I don't want to even talk about America. I'd rather talk about the great things that are happening with China.
So you've spent 21 years in China, and will probably spend the next 21 years in China as well. You don't have any plans to go back to the US anytime soon?
No, actually, we have plans to go to Italy. Actually, yes, I really, seriously, my home country.
Help the Italian economy, they can need it.
My blood is Italian, Martina. My passport is American. And
great choice.
I want my boy to go to university in Italy. I want my boy to go to university at least a couple of years as an exchange student in Italy, and we're planning on being there during those same couple of years. So that's actually the plan. Yeah.
Benvenuti, welcome.
And I should remind all our audience that take a look at Mario's LinkedIn account, which is quite vocal on many of the contemporary issues surrounding China and the world. And definitely check out his new book from Amazon.com.